Thank you.
Boy, thanks so much, Ed. Wow.
I left out all the basketball championships he's won.
Oh boy. Thank you, Brother Doug and Sister Catherine. I tell you, today I'm just kind of a wreck, honestly, this morning. And my wife can attest from last night. Me and my brother Ray Morgan got a workout last night, like we always do these old man workouts when you're over 50. You're trying to keep in shape and all that. And I thought, well, if I get a good workout, I'll sleep good tonight. And that didn't happen. I was nervous, thinking about today. And my wife was nudging me, get to bed now. But here I am. And then listening to Doug and all the speakers this morning, just amazing. And again, Doug, as you can see, and obviously from my end, I've known Doug a long time. And when he starts talking from his heart, his chante, as we say, you know, it makes you cry. So he had me crying all morning. So I'm sitting up front, got tears and stuff, and I was like, dang, this guy did it to me again, you know. So, but you can see what he and Catherine have done in their tenure as leaders here for our state, and more so for our people here. And it just really makes me feel very, very, I don't know, happy is not the right word. It's not a strong enough word to see all my relatives here today. You know, I got my wife's Native Inc. Development Center from Bismarck area. Can you guys please stand real quick? Native Inc. This crew here, a lot of them, I think over half of them, or all of them, are peer support group specialists, like Pam had mentioned, every one of them. And if you come visit the center, you'll see their hard work, their dedication, the clients that they encounter every day. You know, it's very, very challenging work. I also seen my sister in the room here. Where's she at? From fifth generation. Julie Kane, where are you at? There you are. Stand up. Recognize, stand up. Mr. Charette, brother, thank you. I was so glad you guys are here. Because that's 17 years ago, that's where I was at. 6606, that's where I was at, right where you were at. And lo and behold, 17 years later, here I am. Crazy. But that's sobriety. And Julie and I worked together down at United Tribes back in, I think, 2005 at the Wellness Center. She did tons of programming. I learned so much from her in my early stages of my sobriety back then. And you're still at it, Julie. Thanks to you and your work and your husband, your family. Thank you. But my journey is probably no like yours. You know, I'm not here to tell you what to do, what not to do, but my journey is just of reference for you as relatives. And I don't care if you're native or non-native, we're all brothers and sisters here in this journey of sobriety and wellness. But when I look back at my career, working for, like I said, governors, it certainly had its ebbs and flows. It certainly had its challenges. It certainly had, you know, this big fancy title. But prior to that, you know, there was a lot of things that I had went through getting to where I was at that time, and even where I'm at today. And but when I was asked to come here and speak for this event, and I've been to a number of them too, when I was working for Doug and Catherine, and seen a number of speakers, but coming here to Minot, it was like, oh, Minot, wow. And I started thinking about Minot. So when we drove up and parked today, you know, parking's always crazy in Minot State. That's one thing that hasn't changed. But I went to college here in the early 90s as a cross-country runner and track runner many pounds ago, I must say. Many pounds ago. But my dorm was Pioneer Hall, just right right down the sidewalk here. And so I start reminiscing with my wife and my brother about, my dorm friends, and like college students, you come here for me on a scholarship to run and things of that nature, and enjoy, like my dad said, enjoy your time at college because it could be the funnest time of your life. And it was, certainly was. But during my time as an athlete, I was always structured, dedicated, run for 15 years, I had practice at 3 o'clock and you're done at 5 or 6 and off you go. Well, in the meantime, I was into my psychology degree. I wanted to be a sports psychologist and go back and teach and coach. That was my plan. But after my career was done, my 4 years up were running, I found myself with a lot of free time. And at that time, I had some really good friends. In fact, we had a number of tribal members from back home, Frank Chase, Wayne Putra, who were starters for the Beavers here, and they're standouts. We had the football team with Jason Trucrow and some of the other prominent football players, DJ McGillis, really prominent football players that were here. And then we had a number of my tribal members that we all ran cross-country track. So it was really cool to see Native athletes excelling at Minot State. And so it was really fun. And in the meantime, I got to know a lot of friends and relatives and so forth. But when my career is over, I really struggled with my time of finding what space am I going to fill this from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And pretty soon I found myself with friends that, hey, let's go downtown and have a beer. It's 2 for 1s or whatever it was, or, shoot some pool. Yeah, sure, go throw some darts. Just really innocent, time to get away and do something. In fact, the bar we used to frequent was the Barley Pop. I don't know if that's here anymore, but cool name, Barley Pop, whatever. Okay, that sounds cool. Let's go there. So that was our hangout. But little by little, throughout that last year of my senior year at college, and you probably know the story. You start missing class, sleeping in, you're hungover, party. You know the story. Wow, that was me. And pretty soon I found myself behind school, behind classes, and pretty soon I'm like, I don't know if this psychology is really me. I'm here, I'm a senior, ready to graduate. So basically I dropped out. And of course, going home to my parents, my dad, a doctor of education in higher ed, one of the first doctors in America, Native American doctors to get his degree in education. Very, very disappointed. Yeah, thank you. My mom, who spent 30 years in healthcare at IHS, and I didn't drink in high school. I didn't do any of that. I was kind of a focused kid. Probably because of my parents. They're very, very old school disciplinary. So running miles and your homework, and you sit at the table. What's your goals? What are you doing today? What are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing next week? That was my dad. Very old school, very strict with me. And at times, you kind of fight that as the oldest in your family. But, as years go by and as old as I get, I'm so glad that my dad was very strict with me at that time, because he helped me mold who I am today, not only as a man, as a relative, but as a father and a grandfather. And but at that time, I came home kind of with my head down, my tail between my legs, and didn't really find a purpose. So I just basically hung out back home in Belcourt for a good year. Still drinking, still partying, doing that thing. Finally one day, where you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, as we say, I went to my auntie at IHS and I said, Auntie, I really need some help. I just can't quit. I know this ain't me, blah, blah, blah. And at the same time after me, same day, my cousin came at the same thing. So now we have, and we're both the oldest in our families, and we have a big family back in home in Belcourt and Standing Rock, and it was kind of a really wake-up call for our family that here are the 2 oldest grandsons wanting to go to treatment. So it was really God-sent, I think, very unique, but so off we went, and we went to Hartview. That's where we went. That's where I went in the early 90s, and my good friend Kurt is here. I know he's still running the show, and down there he's going to get a big award later on today. Well-deserved, Kurt, and your team. But I went there, so I did my programming, came back, ended up going finding a job with my home res down in Standing Rock, on my mom's side, and that's where I'm enrolled. And I started working down there for about a number of years, and again, start programming. And I'm single, I'm young, my mid-20s, whatever, and doing well, but not doing my program. So when you go to AA, NA, whatever it is required, I just wasn't doing it. And I found myself, white knuckling it. You guys know the story. And that was me. Pretty soon I found myself in bars, hanging around people that, being the DD, but, eventually I knew that I'm going to probably fall off the wagon, as they say. And that's what happened. So there I am. I found myself, in the same cycle for another year. And finally I come back home, and off my uncle is here, Fatty Davis. I don't know if he made it here tonight, but one of my uncles at the time running the 5th generation treatment center back in Belcourt, and I went to him, leaving Fort Yates for my job, and I said, Uncle, I really need some help. I said, I'm struggling. I relapsed, etc. And he said, yeah, we'll get you in. So he did, and again, did well, programmed for a good year or so. But again, it was just my thing with this year thing. I would make it a year, then all of a sudden, it was just like a switch. I just started, not programming, not doing my thing, not doing my, and I'm still single, I'm still doing my thing, no responsibilities, just me. And I started drinking again, started smoking pot, trying other drugs, etc. And I found myself much more in a deeper state of addiction. And during this time, I ended up finding my wife, my snag, as we say in Indian country. And crazy love story. That's another story in itself. But she's the one who really settled me down, so to speak, in a lot of senses. So it felt comfort to be with a beautiful woman, but her and I both were still using, And pretty soon the love story continues and so forth, and now we find ourselves in Bismarck, man together, and now we're going to have a baby. And we're still using it. And it's still in the back of my mind throughout this whole time, I'm thinking, I got to quit. And at least I had that. I would, even in my state of drunkenness or being high, I would still get on my knees and pray. I still had that spirituality, thank God, from my upbringing. And so that really, I think, saved me again, because there came a time where my wife and I were fighting, and I'm doing these side jobs, and I'm hating work, I'm hating life, I'm hungover, and then one day I just, we're fighting again, and she's had it with me. She's had had it up to here and beyond with my drunkenness, my anger, my shortcomings, all those things, and basically kicked me out. So there I am with the pity pot, Scott Davis on pity pot. I go back home to Belcourt, and I go to one of my uncle's house, who I usually go to say for pity, like, hey, uncle, hey, what's up? What are you doing here, nephew? Blah, blah, blah. And usually we'll have a beer, right? And we'll talk about pity pot stuff, right? That was my thing. He wasn't having it this time. My Uncle Rod Davis, and I've said this publicly before, he basically scolded me. He said, what are you doing here? God dang it, and he, the F-bombs and so forth. What are you doing here? And why are you always mad? Why are you always blaming? You ever listen to yourself speak, nephew? You're always angry. What are you angry about? You need to straighten up and probably get some help, get some treatment. Go on, get. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, wait a minute. Come on, uncle, Pity pot here. It's poor Scott Davis. Come on, have a beer. So I got in my truck and I sat there for a little bit, and I thought, and something just clicked. It's like, yep, he's right. He's absolutely right. And no sooner I left his house, I went right back to my uncle Fatty Davis, and luckily he was there. And this window of sobriety opened up. And you know how this works, right? When that window of sobriety, I want to go to treatment, opens up, it opens up for a very short time. And it closes really quick. And luckily, and I thought, if he's there, I can get in. If Fatty's not there, who knows? I'm going to take off again. I'm going to keep drinking. You know how that works. And luckily, he was there by the grace of God, that he was there, took me in again. I crawled through that window, I jumped in that window, and I shut that window, and I stayed there. And when I think of the fifth generation back then, it wasn't the Hilton of sober places of counseling. It's an old rundown, revamped BIA building that had some classrooms in there. Upstairs, the floors are creaky. You have the old heater thing in the corner that pops, and you hear the steam and all that stuff. And you had a chalkboard, and you had old desks. You know, you remember that, Mr. Charette? You counseled me. So there's Mr. Charette. We're talking about 12-step program. We do no homework. Chalk. But for some reason, I really wanted it this time different. Probably because of my wife, and I knew there was we're gonna have a baby, you know, and that's one thing I always wanted to do is be a daddy, you know. And I'm into my 30s now. I'm thinking maybe I'm too old to have kids, you know. I mean, everybody around me have kids in their 20s, you know. I'm like, what's up with Scott, whatever. So I go to treatment, and I'm talking to my counselors, like, you know, well, what are you here for, Scott? Well, I'm here to sober up for my family. Wrong. What? If you're here for your family or to get your wife back or to get your kids back, you're here for the wrong reasons. And I'm like, what do you mean? You need to be here for you first. So he went through this whole number of days talking about that, like, why am I here? And finally it registered, you know, in this thick rock I have above on my shoulders, it finally registered, like, yeah, I got to be here for myself. So that was my journey of that. And the reason why I started that was because of this. Now this guy here, that's a different story. That's mini-me there, that's little Scotty. And boy, I tell you, this guy, I'll talk about him later here, but had I not did what I did, make that first step, right? That first step, admit that I got a problem. Crawl through that window that's open about this much. Crawl through that window, slam the window, and stay put. Dedicate myself to programming, listening, doing your homework, praying, working out. That was my routine during treatment. And back then, you know, because a lot of our tribal sobriety places, you know, it's very limited on resources, so it's usually outpatient. You know, we don't have full-fledged inpatient treatment centers like most folks. So I had to do what I had to do. So after 5 o'clock, I would run up to the church. They had church services. I'd go up there and go to mass. Then after that, I'd run to the gym and go work out. And that was my routine. In the middle of all that, I'm still praying. My wife's still mad at me. Don't know where that's going. But, and rightly so, deserving so. But again, part of it was because of this. And now 17 years later, here we are. And today, that is the most important thing to me of my sobriety is my family. My family, by far. Do we struggle with things? Yeah, we do. We're not a perfect family. Do we struggle? Do we have arguments and disagreements? Yes. Do we have people around us that use and so forth? Yeah, we do. We're not immune to any of that. You know, we don't live in a bubble, but we are very strong about our sobriety and our spirituality within our home. Here's the other big part of my family. This is my mom and dad's 50th anniversary. Boy, I tell you. It's quite the crew there, I tell you. We got a lot of stories. I can talk for hours, and I know my mom and my sisters are watching, so hi, Mom, back home. Love you guys, miss you. But you know, again, family, for my mom and dad, been very lucky. I had two parents, very lucky. Very, very lucky. I'm very lucky I had a strict dad. Very lucky I had a strict uncle. Very lucky I had a strict grandpa. And so this has been my thing over the years when I've done some of these talks and some of these outreach stuff into the prisons and so forth about the men, us so-called warriors. You know, And I've had my encounters. I've had my run-ins with certain guys who think they're the warrior because they're buff and they kick ass and they can fight, whatever. But let's erase all that. Erase all that. To me, being a father like my dad and my brother Ray and myself, that we try to be, to me, being a warrior is like, have you read to your kids? Have you changed your baby's diaper? Have you cooked? Do you clean? Do you read to your kids? All those things. Do you provide? Do you protect? Those are the things I see us men should be doing versus trying to be a tough guy and telling the women what to do, what not to do, etc. So those have been my experiences through my sobriety of defining what a male is, what a man is, what we refer to in our culture as an akichita, a warrior. And so we continue that journey for myself personally through my sobriety. Being a dad, love, teach, protect, provide. It's a beautiful thing being a dad. It really is. It really is. It's special. It's special, especially for me and my son. And Scotty was born there was a gap between him and my oldest daughter, Santana. And there was a time where me and my wife thought, well, we're just going to have 2 daughters and that's it. And I thought, okay, well, but I felt a little void, like, boy, it'd be nice to have a son, a mini-me. And I think it was a nephew of our brother Robert, who's gone now. He had a boy. For some reason, I watched my wife really attach herself to Brody, his name is. And I think that was something spiritual with my wife and myself and we weren't even trying for another kid, a baby. But here she's working at 4 Eats at the time, and she was pregnant, and she comes back with this little picture of the ultrasound. And I'm laying on the couch, and she says, look. And I look, and and I seen boy on there. Kind of tricked me, but it was and I started crying. I'm like, and I'm well into my sobriety. I'm strong. I feel great, like I am today. But knowing that there was a boy coming, has changed my world big time. And of course, my other daughters, they're the same way. And I don't treat anyone any differently. But having my son with me, whether it's football yesterday, tonight, asking me questions, telling about his day, that he mossed somebody in football, or, on and on. It's been very special. And for him to go hunting together on these journeys. In fact, next week, my brother and I, we'll be going out to Montana to do some elk hunting, and Scotty's coming with us. So these are the things that sobriety can give you as a father. But you got to make that commitment, guys. You got to make that commitment to yourself, to your spouse, to your loved one, to your family, to be that provider, that protector. Sometimes you're going to have to go last. You're going to have to sacrifice things. You're going to have to, when your wife goes off to work, working at 4 Eats early, you got to learn how to braid your daughter's hair. I learned that. It's just part of my journey, But it's a beautiful life. It's a beautiful life when you have kids. And knowing that you're a provider and protector. And here's the other thing I learned. So women, you have this sixth sense about children, right? And you should, because you carry us for 9 months, right? In this umbilical cord that we call sacred, you have this connection with babies and so forth. So you have this sixth sense with children about things, about emotions, about senses that are about children, if something's going on with them in their lives. I'm going to tell you something. Us men, we have that too. We have that too. And how do we get that, develop that sixth sense? It's by being a father, being available, being home. I can tell you, I have this feeling with my kids, every one of them. I know when something's going on. I just do. I just have it. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, women should have that. No, us men have it too. And that's one discovery I have really learned over the years through my sobriety, that when you love something so much and you protect it and you're in sync with it, you're going to have these sixth sense about things with your family, with your kids. And that's something I'm very, very thankful that I have that type of intuition with my family. My ancestors, it's another thing that contributed heavily to my sobriety. My ancestors, every one of them, workaholics. Not alcoholics, but workaholics. Always working, always providing. We were just talking last night about how well they used to dress back in the day. Suits and ties and, their regalia. My grandpa on the left there, Herbert Buffalo Boy, family in the middle, Conrad Buffalo Boy. My mom to the right. My grandpa with the headdress to the left, that's Buffalo Boy. That's my family, that's who I am, that's my name. So I think about that as relatives. What is your last name? What is your Lakota name? My Lakota name is Oshkate Tawa, means his celebration. That was given to me by my uncle. And for years I used to journey him, what does that mean? How come they gave me that name? Well, his celebration to me is like I like to be around people. I enjoy that. Like this is natural to me. Even though as nervous as I was, this is my space. I love being around people. My other Anishinaabe name that was named a few summers ago by my uncle Fatty Davis and Elliot Ward, Miss Chet Kiwapitan. Miss Chet Kiwapitan, Imachiape, means many visions. So when I gave Obagid, my uncle Elliot, to name me, because I didn't have an Anishinaabe name, a Chippewa name, he said, okay, and I didn't know. So we went through a whole year, almost a year of what is going to be my Anishinaabe name. I didn't know that. It wasn't until the day that we had the ceremony that he named me Many Visions. And I'm like, why did you name me that? He said, because nephew, he said, I went around and asked the community about you, who you were, and I got a little nervous about that. Like, what are they saying about me? Like, my reputation, good or bad, we kind of worry about that. What are they saying on Facebook, right? But he said, a lot of people know that you've been through a lot. And it's like, you've seen a lot, Scott. And I know that's true, but like the governor is, and like I am, why we're brothers, we're very curious by nature. We're very protective. We want to fix things, but to do that, we're very observant. We're always like this. We're very observant, and I think that comes into play why I like to hunt so much, because I like to observe. I like to see things, and because I'm a protector. You got to watch out for danger and who's in the room and so forth. So that has been very special of this new name that had been honored by my family over the years. But make no doubt, they're watching. They're watching. And when you need help, and I've been through this many times, ain't my first or last time, relatives, when you need help with something and nobody's around, right? There's always somebody around. We know that. Tukanshla, God, Jesus, Wanikia, whatever you want to call him, your higher power, right? Right? He's there. You're never alone. And like when Russ and the Jackson 5 sang today, he's going to be teased now on this one. As soon as we like to tease, yeah, Russ and the Jackson 5. But those songs they sang, those songs that they sang, those songs we sing in ceremony, those songs call our relatives when we have sweat, call upon our relatives to help us, in these times of need. Because as humans, no matter what creed we are, what race, what nationality, what economic, rich or poor, we're pitiful at times. We need help. We need help. So sometimes in the midst of our struggles, our trauma, our drama, whatever it is we're going through, we need help. And so who do we turn to? Well, ask your grandpa, ask your grandma, ask your sister. Maybe they've been they're on in the spiritual world, but they're there. They're always with you. They always will be. So they're always watching. We'll check you. What we call is a word for prayer. And this is a journey my wife and I have been on for a long time. And of course, like sobriety, it ebbs and flows, right? You're very strong sometimes. You're very, but for the most part, prayer is very the foundation of our family. So after about 3 years ago, I had a medical condition, and I think it just led up for a lot of stress. My tribe was going through probably one of the biggest movements in history when we were trying to protect water in Standing Rock. And I was right in the middle of that, trying to protect my people, trying to make sure nobody got hurt, keeping prayer in the focus. And it was day after day, night after night for a whole year. And it really took its toll on me. And I didn't know it because you get up and do it. Middle of the night, things are happening. You go down and making sure nobody gets hurt. That was my direction that our Itanchas had told me to do through ceremony. So with that, I developed this medical condition, heart disease I have. And a lot of it's from my dad's side of the family, medically speaking. Some of our things that we inherit as Native people with health disparities is, it's part of your genes. And so when I discovered that I have heart disease or blockage, I'm like, what? Because in the meantime, I'm working out, I'm still lifting, I'm trying to be active, play softball, basketball. But lo and behold, I got heart disease and I'm blocked up. So the doctor says, you're gonna need bypass surgery. I'm like, what? So here I'm just shocked by what's going on. Like, what? Why me? What's going on here? So he said, you're gonna need this within a month. And I'm like, can you give me a little bit longer? I said, no. Within a month, you're gonna have to have surgery. So lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I'm in a meeting in the office, and here we go. The old chest is beaten. I can't breathe, And I called my doctor. He said, get to the hospital now. I called my wife, and I started to get just tired. Long story short, I have the surgery. I'm there in the waiting room. I wake up. My wife's there. My brother Ray's there, and I'm full of wires, tubes, all the stuff, and I'm just in this hurt bag, But something clicked inside of me through my sobriety, through my programming, is that this ain't gonna whip me. I ain't going out like this. Was I scared before the surgery? Absolutely. I was terrified. I might not make it. What am I gonna do with my family? Who's gonna take care of them? All these things are going on. So I found myself, trying to make deals with God again. We all been there. We all been that, right? We've all done that. But by the grace of God, I'm out. I walk out of the surgery. I don't remember that, but my brother said, yeah, you got up and you walked out of the surgery room. Nobody does that. But I knew that this ain't gonna get me. I ain't going out like that. I ain't gonna go out. I'm a drunk. I'm a drug addict. I have heart disease, but I ain't gonna go out like that. I just ain't. I'm not gonna sit on the couch. I'm not gonna sit on the couch and, poor me. I have heart disease. I'm a drug addict. I'm addicted. No, You gotta put the work in. You gotta put the work in. There's just no way around it. Sometimes we use this word hechitilo. That's just the way it is. Sometimes when I hear that, that's so be it. We say hechitilo. There's no way around it. It is what it is, right? So what are you gonna do about that, Scott? You gonna sit on the couch and eat chips and feel sorry for yourself, or are you gonna get up and work out? And that's what I did. And my wife was there with me the whole way. I couldn't even walk from here to the end of the aisle there, my first day out of the hospital. But I'm gonna walk. And a week later, I'm making it a little bit longer, 100 yards, 200 yards, and pretty soon, and how crazy this sounds, I'm gonna play ball again. Because in the meantime, I'm playing noon ball with the old guys, the 50 over squad. I'm gonna play ball again. Because that's my love. That gives me peace. 6 months later, 5 months later, I go to tournament in Idaho, and I play, I think the total of that weekend, I think I played like 12, 13 games. 2 divisions. I played in the 40 and over, and I played in the 50 and over after my surgery. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm telling you, it can be done. You can't go out like that. You just can't. You got to put the work in. You got to put the miles in. You gotta lift. Prior to that, I'm still lifting. I feel stronger. And here's an old cross country guy from Montana State that can't even lift, the bar, back in the day, to where I'm at today. Yesterday, 2 days ago, I benched 365 pounds. Not bragging, but these are just the things that when you put your mind to something, when you want your sobriety so bad, when you want to be healthy, and you put the wocheki in there, that prayer, your balance, your family, great things can happen. Great things can really happen. Part of my other sobriety is the Chongaluta, the Red Road. Really, that's my AA these days. That's where I go for my balance, my spirituality. And as of late, I've been doing a lot of that. I don't know why Creator's been putting me on that path, but it's certainly been a beautiful path on that. So I want to thank Russ McDonald, because that lodge is out at United Tribes. We share that with my wife, the group, and Ron LeBeau, who runs Sweat for us. Ron, thank you, brother, for doing all those things. But that's a big part of who we are. The spirituality part, like I said, and my wife snapped that shot, of me when I was up on the hill with my chinupa, my prayer. And when she said that, when she said, "Look at this," that is you as relatives, as a person in sobriety. God's light is shining through you. It's shining through you. You may not know it, you may not feel it, but it's there. And when you decide to turn that over to God, to your higher power, He's going to shine that light on you. He's going to give you opportunities. You compound that with your mentors, my two uncles who guide me in that way, great things happen. Sobriety leads to new life and opportunities. 9 years ago, I was appointed to this crazy role of Indian Affairs Commissioner. I'm like, are you sure you got the right Scott Davis? My God, I'm a drunk. I'm an addict. Why do you want me to work for you? Crazy. And then my uncle Wilbur, who taught me a lot about these ways, he was there. But this is a picture I want to share with you right here. This one here is so powerful for me. So powerful. Because when Doug got elected, and I knew Doug a little bit, we met, but we didn't talk about, okay, what's your platform? You're going to keep me on? What are we going to do? We were just busy. He was just busy. So we never got a time to talk about things. So I didn't know that he was going to, when he gave State of the State address, his first one, I'm sitting there as a cabinet member listening like he's going to talk about economic development, healthcare, education, what governors do, right? Lo and behold, he talks about addiction, talks about recovery, talks about stigma, talks about not being ashamed. I'm like, in this picture, I'm crying. I'm barely holding it together, people. I am freaking out, almost crying, breaking down like, what are you saying? Because in these roles of as a state leader, you're taught to do this. Shh. Don't tell anybody as an elected leader that you're an alcoholic. You got to hide that. And when they ask you about your addiction or your DUI, you hide it. You shy away from that question. And that's just being a politician. I'm like, wait a minute. That's contrary to my teachings as in the 12-step program. That's contrary to being dishonest. I don't like that. So for years, I felt this like I'm hiding my addiction. I'm hiding something. And I'm even the city commissioner around this time for the city of Mandan. Please, nobody ask me a question about my DUI. I don't want to answer that. Nor do I how am I going to answer that? But when he set the stage, him and Catherine, about shame and addiction, I just broke down crying. It's brought that freedom that, somebody else is saying this. Somebody else it's okay. So when you see this picture, and of course the governor is obviously in the news a lot these days, so this picture pops up right away, and of course there's a headline about him, presidential stuff, whatever. I don't see that. I just see addiction. I see sobriety. I see stigma. All that. The game changer of what we're doing here today. So that picture is gonna sit with me for a long time. But staying active, being healthy, compete. These are just some pictures I've done. I still like to lift weights, work out. You got to do that. Got to stay balanced. Your support group. Surround yourself with good people. You got to do it. You're a product of your environment. You're a product of who you hang around. You know that. And in closing, always know this. You're loved by many. You're loved by many. You may not feel like it sometimes because of our guilt, our trauma, whatever it is we did in our past, but don't let your past define you. People are always there to help you. You're not alone. You got 4 people up here that love you deeply, don't even know you. But if you're in sobriety, if you're in this walk, this Chungaluta like I am, we love you. We're here for you. You're in our thoughts and our prayers. So with that, relatives, I just want to say thank you for your time. It's a blessing to be here and share a little bit about my story and my journey. And may that journey continue with you, your families, yourself, and know that this is going to be a beautiful life. You continue day by day in your walk of sobriety. Mataki oase, kachikiro.
Keep it going for Scott.